What is up, you beautiful soul? You're listening to Musings, and I am your host, Ruben Martinez. This podcast started because I am insanely fascinated by life and the human experience, and after spending so many of my waking hours pondering life in silence, I figured I'd do something useful and try to evolve out loud. I make tons of mistakes every day, and I certainly don't have all the right answers, but my hope is that with the time you and I get together, we'll ponder life more deeply than usual. What we want from it, how we navigate it, what it teaches us, and how we show up to ourselves and to those around us every single day. If nothing else, I hope Musings gives you something to think about as you go on about your daily life. If it's your first time here, welcome aboard. If you're returning, welcome back. As always, you can get in touch at www.whatafascinatingthing.com and via email at whatafascinatingthing@gmail.com. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. So a couple of weekends ago, I was hanging out with some friends, and I started riffing on the way that I see life and the meaning of life, and what do we do with the time that we have left on this planet. And my friend started telling me that it seems like I had come up with a framework for how to be resilient and how to live life and never let life beat me up too bad. And I never really thought about it as a framework, but after he said that, I realized that the same riff that I had gone on has stayed relatively consistent over the past year or so, and so to that end, I suppose it truly is a framework that I now am operating my life with, and so I find it extremely valuable, and I wanted to spend today's episode walking you through, I suppose, the framework of how I think about life and our time here and our purpose here, and why I find it so exciting. So there's a few different concepts that will kind of all come together, and the very first one is just our perspective on time. Most of us live our lives really worried about time because, for better or for worse, our brain and therefore ourselves, we tend to worry a lot about dying. Life gets too short, there's not enough time in the day, our culture always says that time is money, and there's always all this pressure to get all these things done, and to accomplish all these things and put a dent in the universe, so to speak, make something super meaningful and change the world. And I think a lot of us end up having a lot of angst, a lot of anxiety, a lot of worries, because with each passing day, with each passing year, we may start to feel like we're not making as meaningful of a change as we always imagined we would. We're not putting as big of a dent onto this planet as we had always dreamed of as children. We are not finding enough meaning in our every single day life experience or purpose than what we were raised to believe that we should. And there's all this angst that comes from just not feeling like we're doing enough with our time. But the thing that really changed me, I would say about 2 years ago, was the actual, genuine, true realization that time is primarily a social construct. And what I mean by that is that whatever you believe caused this universe to come into existence, whether it was God, whether it was some intelligent design creator, whether it was just by random chance and we're part of some much broader, bigger picture, whatever your belief is about that, if you really sit there and think about it, whatever that was didn't design our 24-hour clocks and the way that we schedule our meetings and the ways that our calendars work. Rather, our universe operates a certain way, and we humans decided to figure out a system that seems to make sense and seems to repeat itself consistently enough that allows us to have a framework to predict future behavior, future actions. It is a very useful mechanism to say, hey, I'll meet you tomorrow at 2 o'clock p.m. in the afternoon, and there are no real question marks about what that truly means. That is a very useful mechanism, but at the end of the day, that's still just a human-made mechanism for predictability and stability in this life, but it's not anything that's fundamentally inherent to physics or the way that the universe works. And so I think about that with time. And then the second thing that I think about with time is that if you assume that you'll live to be 100 years old, and that's a bit of a stretch, most of us die long before that, but let's just pretend you live a really good, high-quality life and you live to be 100. That is a very, very long time. But if you get to be 100 and the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old, then by my calculation, that means that each human life, and therefore our own lives, is only going to be about 0.0000002% of all of the quote-unquote time that has ever existed. And in fact, that fraction gets smaller and smaller with each passing day because more time has therefore passed. And thirdly, the other thing to notice about time is that while we may believe that our human life is extremely meaningful and we need to find meaning and purpose in our lives, it turns out that life itself, this life experience, is actually the minority if you think about history. And what I mean by that is that the grand majority of people who have ever existed are currently dead. And so the people of human existence that are currently alive is a very, very, very tiny subset of all the humans that have ever lived. And in fact, all of the humans that are currently alive right now is a tiny subset of all the humans that will eventually ever live. Of course, unless we, terminate our world through climate change, but that's a whole other discussion for a whole other day. And so why do I start with all these thoughts around time? I think for me, it's just been such a powerful mechanism to put my life back into perspective in terms of where my life stands in the grandest scheme of things, in the grandest sense of the universe. And when I talk to some people, they actually feel a little bit let down when they think about this, because some people think about it as a depressing thought exercise, as something where you truly don't matter, and that's something that is even more anxiety-inducing. And I challenge you, and I've challenged myself in the past, to really flip the way that you think about it, because the other way to think about it, and the way that I've chosen to think about it, and it has made all the difference in my life, is that all of a sudden, once you understand that perspective of your own place, your own life's place in this grand scheme of the universe, in this grand scheme of human history, in this grand scheme of universe's history, this inherent kind of meaninglessness to your own individual one life is actually something that is insanely liberating. And the day that it finally clicked, I just felt like I had all these shackles that came off of me, because no longer did I have to spend every single day worried about what is my purpose in life? Why did I get put on this planet? What is it that I'm going to impact the world about? I lost all of that, and I could let go of all of that, because regardless if you're Albert Einstein, if you're Steve Jobs, if you're some epic person in human history, yes, you'll have an impact. Yes, you might be in the history books. Yes, you might be remembered for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And yet still, in the grand scheme of time itself, you are but a meaningless blip when it's all said and done. And think about all of the people who have ever been emperors or conquerors or whatever in history that have long since been forgotten and have long since been invented over, so to speak. And again, some people choose a very negative view of that realization, but I think it is insanely empowering, because what it means is that every single morning, every single day that you wake up, it is quite literally the first day of the rest of your life. Because assuming that you can't time travel to the past and the past is never coming back, then that by definition means that every single day of your life is the start of the rest of your life, no matter how old you are. And if every single day of your life is the start of your life, then that means that with your sense of agency over yourself, you can start to choose today a new course of action to whatever the F in the world you want to go spend some time on. You can start to let go of whatever has been true about your past. You can start to let go about whatever expectations you have on yourself or whatever expectations have been wielded upon you by people around you who have their own expectations and projections. When you let go of time and you let go of some meaning with a capital M that you think that your individual life is supposed to have, you start to realize this insane amount of power within you to simply choose for yourself whatever the F you want to spend your time on, whatever the F you want to spend your energy on, whomever the F you want to give time and energy to, and you can choose to say no to the things that don't give you energy anymore, even if they gave you energy yesterday. And to me, that is where meaning really shows up in your life, because you start to truly become an active participant in your life, an active driver of your life, and you're no longer searching for some meaning and purpose outside of you that's never going to arrive. And instead, you start to take ownership over your meaning, and you start to introduce meaning by finding and doing things that interest you, that motivate you, that catch your attention. And you get to do all of that with the freedom and knowledge that tomorrow you can choose a totally new and different set of things to go put your time and energy and attention to. And so that is my philosophy on life. That is my philosophy on how to reinvigorate yourself with a sense of meaning. And really what I mean is a sense of ownership, so that you can create your meaning and whatever that means to you on whatever day you choose. And every single day, give yourself permission to reinvent yourself and choose a new path, even if you spent the last several decades living a different path. So, thank you for listening. As always, remember that every single day is the first day of the rest of your life. And please give yourself permission to take ownership over your life and your choices and your thoughts, and chart a new course for it just for the sake of it, because no one else is going to do it for you, and it's no one else's life, and none of our lives are truly going to make so much of a difference that your choice for your own self is blocked from coming into being. I hope that gave you something really interesting to think about. As you can tell by my voice, I'm really energized when I talk about this, because I have found it insanely fueling to carry on in my own life, and I hope that it's given you quite a bit to think about. Thanks as always for listening. This was Musings by Ruben. You can find me at www.whatafascinatingthing.com or via email at whatafascinatingthing@gmail.com. Cheers and good night or good day, wherever this finds you.